we have a bit of a different video today. Uh,
The sky is blue, the sun is high.
Say hello to Millie, and this is Uha. Kind of a funky name, but she kind of died on me for like 4 months, and then she came back, and then I was like, ooh, and I just started calling her that. These two plants are kind of in need of a little TLC, to say the least. I started noticing the monstera was getting yellow leaves, and I wanted to do something about that. And I'm still learning to take care of them, so I'm not really sure exactly what needs to be done, but I do want to check the soil and move things around a bit, and I do think I have to switch their pots. The monstera is definitely getting a little root bound, so it probably needs a bigger space, and I'm hoping to also get a moss pole or a trellis kind of thing for her, so she has some support. And I think she may be also getting leaf burn. I got too excited and I put her right here, and I think it's a little too much direct sunlight, so I'm going to move her over to the other side so she's not under the sun directly. Anything else I want to do? I do have to take care of the soil, but other than that, the main event for today, I have been wanting to get cute planters for these two for a very long time, but either everything is too expensive or not the right size, or I just couldn't really find any cute ones that I like. So we are going to make some today, and I'm just shooting my arrows in the dark. I have like a vague idea, or a very vague plan basically. I'm thinking we make them out of cardboard and do a sort of paper mache kind of thing, and primer, paint, varnish, and seal it. And I don't really intend on watering the plants in these planters, so I'm not too worried about making them waterproof, but I do definitely want to make them water resistant, so I have to look into that a bit. But I don't really know what I'm doing. I guess we will just figure out on the way and see how it goes. But yeah, I'm gonna give them a little spa appointment, and then I'll get to designing their clothes, I guess. But yeah, let's see how it goes. When I first had the idea for this project, I knew almost immediately that I wanted to do something with scallops. Like there was just this itch in my brain to do something crafty, and it had to be something with scallops. Eventually, I landed on the idea of planters, and as I said, cuter pots for the plants were really long overdue. I had some vague ideas for how I wanted to approach this, so before I did anything about anything, I thought it would be beneficial to put pen to paper and just let all of the ideas I had come out that way. I've been using this really cute red notebook to do that. It's become my project notebook, I guess. And I have in this any kind of brainstorming for projects. It really helps me to have a dedicated space to do just that, and I especially love the gridded paper, and I can use that to iron out some designs, and I really love writing on the grid paper as well. And it's really fun because this notebook is this bright, lovely red color, and it makes me feel like I have some genius plans in here. And for example, if I were in a movie, this is where the detectives would look if they wanted to uncover my plans for world domination. Anyway, coming back to the planters. I scrolled on Pinterest for a bit to gather some inspiration, see what the possibilities were, and for some reason stripes were really calling to me. I listed down a few color combinations also that I would have liked to explore. The very first one was like a white or off-white and yellow, and I thought that was really fun. And I also had some other options with pink and blue or blue and white, and in this planning session I ended up creating a floral design with a lovely light baby blue color. But as you will see, I do end up changing that. I kind of wish I kept it that blue color, but I do also really like the colors that I went with in the end. I also thumbnailed out some potential patterns that I wanted to explore. Maybe I haven't used it for this particular project, but I do like some of the things that came out, so I might add them to different projects. It really wasn't much. I was just going off of instinct and what I saw in my head that I wanted these to look like, and just went with it. I decided to build the, I guess, foundation of the planters using some of the cardboard I had lying around, and I measured basically how big I wanted the minimum size to be that they would be able, or the pots would be able to take, so that I would still have space around them to put my hands in and pull out what I need to pull out. So I took the measurements of the pots, the diameter of the pots, and added 5 centimeters to everything. So in the end, the planters are 5 centimeters larger in height and in diameter. I drew a square in the dimensions of the pot, and I divided it lengthwise and widthwise into half, and I just hand drew a circle using that as a guide. I really, I guess I was being a bit stubborn, but I did not want to get too, I'm not sure what the word is, but I didn't want to get too technical with this project because I knew that if I did, I would very easily get overwhelmed. I planned for it sufficiently enough that I wasn't going into it completely blind, but I also did want to leave room for me to explore and be spontaneous and make my mistakes and learn that way. So only some specific details about the project I put in the notebook, like the things that I would absolutely need and be sure of, like the dimensions and the colors, or at least that would need a little bit of planning for it. I don't know if that makes sense, but so yes, so after that I had these circles and I had the walls. It was a bit of a Frankenstein situation, and I had to add a few extra bits to get the size that I wanted. I made sure to use a corrugated cardboard so that I could bend it and shape it to some extent, and I just taped everything up. I did think about hot gluing it, but just knowing the amount of material that was gonna go on top of everything, the tape I think was okay. And I made sure to use this like paper tape, or I guess it's kind of a masking tape, I guess, but I did want the layers of stuff to be able to stick to it properly, so I couldn't use anything that was shiny or with a coating.
Gnarled. Just mix some PVA glue, half and half with water, and slop it all over your cover.
Now, I had a bunch of these like newsprint sheets, so I just decided to use that for the paper mache aspect. And I really like the not stark white color of the paper, and I think the paints and colors just show up a lot nicer on mid-toned base layers. So I think that was a good decision. I tore them up and I tried to get kind of a good amount of rough edges, or I think it's called deckled edges if you want to use the right terms. So the deckled edges on the pieces of paper, so that it would be easier for them to blend and they wouldn't have such a harsh edge. And I wasn't really a fan of those harsh edges, so we do cover that up. But you know, when I started off this step of the process, it was taking so long, and I was getting so tired during, and I had decided in the beginning I wanted to do 3 layers of this, and it was just taking way too long because I was going in and individually putting the pieces and then going over it with the brush, and just that over and over and over. Eventually I did figure out a more efficient way to do this, which was just laying down a lot of the glue mixture and having a nice big pool of the stuff, and then laying down the pieces of paper in a medium large area all together, and they kind of absorb the moisture and they stay in place, and then I can go over that with my brush, and it ended up being done a lot quicker. So layer 2 and layer 3 went by in a much shorter time than layer 1 did, so that was a good discovery. And another thing I learned was that the wet surface of the paper and the brush were acting like sandpaper almost. So going over the wet pieces of paper, it would eat away at the paper and make it smooth, or smoother at least, to paint on, and I think that really helped make the texture a lot more cohesive and blended. This did end up becoming kind of relaxing and meditative once I figured out an easier way to go about it, but in the beginning it was really getting to me. But regardless, at this stage I was finally able to see some tangible outputs, because the planters were taking shape and they were starting to feel a lot more solid, and I was basically seeing the results coming up, so I got very excited seeing that. As you can probably tell, I am using clear gesso for this. I did want to keep the gray tone of the paper, so I didn't end up using the white one, or the white gesso that I had. I think I actually prefer the clear gesso. The texture and the finish that it gave was really nice to paint on. And as you may have realized also, I am going with the stripes instead of any of the other designs that I thought of for this, and also the stars for the other one. I did a few mock-ups on my iPad and I just let that sort of marinate for a few days, and every now and then I would think of a few tweaks and add that to my options, but I ended up choosing the red and pink stripes and the green stars on the yellow. I wanted to keep both the planters looking maybe similar, but not exactly the same. So I want them to have some kind of common thing between them, and just as it went down, the common thing ended up becoming the yellow paint that I have. I bought this yellow to paint over some of the cupboards at home, and I love how gorgeous and bright this yellow is. But I did have to tone it down a little bit for this project because the original actual color was a lot more lemon yellow, and I wanted a more pale shade. So I toned it down with a bit of purple and a bit of white, and also a mustard, like a mustardy color to tone it down. And I really ended up liking this shade of yellow too. I think it's such a nice, happy sunshine yellow. And I did 2 coats of this paint to get the coverage that I needed, and also because of all of the extra layers, the texture from the paper pieces underneath was also kind of getting smoothened out, so that worked out really well. Now that I'm looking at this, I really want to make some kind of lamp as well. Like, maybe not a lamp shade, but the body of the lamp, because it's just giving lamp vibes. It's giving lamp vibes. I don't know. It's fun. At this stage, this was a difficult few days of painting. Once I started the pinks and reds, I was absolutely fighting with this pink color. I may well have mixed it like some 4, 5, 6 times. Initially, it ended up being too bubblegum pink, and then it was a weird Barbie pink and not even a nice one, and then somehow I made a hot pink, which was a poor decision. But what kept happening was the paint would look fine on the palette, but when it dried on where I was painting, it would change a bit. And also the lighting on these days was not helping at all. The sun was in and out of clouds the whole time, so the lighting inside the studio kept changing, and that's why you'll probably be seeing those weird lines in these clips. And I really do not like working or filming in overhead lighting. It just feels a bit too stark for my taste, but I did end up having to turn them on because there was no light. So I was already really frustrated, and on top of that, this pink was really giving me so much trouble. I just kept mixing it and mixing it and mixing it until I got a shade that I liked. But now I have so much extra pink paint, which is great, so I'm gonna have to find some ways to use that. But then also another thing that happened is during this time I actually dropped my camera. It was on the tripod and one of its legs gave out and it fell, and I damaged the lens, which is very convenient at this time. So it's in the shop right now and I really do miss it. But I guess the silver lining, I started using the telephoto lens that came with my camera for filming, and surprisingly it kind of challenged me to get out of my comfort zone and explore new types of framing and new types of angles. And I think it was a bit of a blessing in disguise, if I may, because I really felt sort of pushed to find creative ways to capture and document, because I can't really film too up close with the telephoto lens, so I had to find new ways to set up the camera, and I think it really helped me utilize all of the space that I have in the studio. And honestly, I really love the footage that comes out of this lens. I think it's really yummy, so I do want to incorporate this in more videos in the future. And I ended up using also my phone to film some of the overhead shots, so that worked out. But also, another thing that worked out really great because of this was I only realized this later. While trying to fix my camera, I ended up resetting it, and now my clips save in a different format. And I'm actually really glad that happened and I stumbled upon that, because now I need to thankfully do a lot less processing of the footage, and it is a lot easier for me to track the clips as well because of how they are named and saved. So I am really grateful for that. But all of these lovely things, but I was getting really restless and frustrated because of all of these tiny things adding up, and I just wanted to be done and just have something familiar, because as good as all those little challenges were, and um the new things were there to push me, it was maybe too much to happen all at once. So I kind of needed to just take a break for that day, close out, and come back with a fresh mind. Okay, do not look at the stuff behind me. The studio is really messy and chaotic, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this though. I'm so excited. I'm so happy with how these turned out. I think they look super cute. They're really light and super solid actually. I think the multiple layers of paper and glue really helped, and because of how many layers of stuff there are, you can the paper texture kind of blends together, so I don't think you can immediately tell what's going on, but I think it turned out really nice. And I love the scallop edge, and I want scallops on everything I own now, and I also want pink and red on everything I own now. I think I really underestimated this color combination all my life, and now that I made this, I can't stop looking at it. I really love how these look together. This project took me a long time. It was well over a week, I think 10-12 days at a stretch, because there was a lot of waiting for things to dry, like the paper mache and the glue, and then the paint, and then the varnish. So a lot of waiting for things to dry and waiting for things to be done to move on to the next step. It was a bit of a challenge because I am not used to projects that take this long anymore. When I was younger, a lot of the creative projects that I did, like craft-wise or creating art-wise, they would take me long. I would sit for days to finish things, and that's just the way that I worked. And the last few years, the scope of my work has reduced a lot. So I work in my tiny little sketchbook, and my painting sessions are done in like 1 or 2 hours, and then I have the final thing in front of me. And just waiting for so long for these to be done, I could feel myself get very frustrated and overwhelmed with how long these were taking. And towards the end, I just wanted it to be done. Even though I was enjoying the process and I was loving how these were turning out, I just wanted to hold the planters in my hand and just see them as finished products. This was, I think, a good challenge and a really good gateway into slowing down and embracing projects that take that long to finish. And I think it's a good reminder to also take things slower, whether that's waiting for things to dry or just waiting in general, or just doing things step by step and letting them take the time that they need to take. I think this was a very good practice for that, and I'm certainly excited to do more of these projects. I definitely want to make new planters, but one thing I do want to try and that I noticed, I gravitate towards the color scheme of pink and yellow and green a lot. I have a lot of those colors in the studio as well as at home, and I love them. I love those colors, but I was kind of getting sick of them by the end of these, and I think I want to open myself up to different color schemes. And you can see that this is pink and yellow and green. I have a little pen stand thing here that's also pink and yellow and green, so a lot of those three colors together going on around me. So I think it would be good to have other, or just explore other colors as well. I think would be a good idea. Yeah, I think I'm going to put the plants into them, set them in their appropriate places. Might take some pictures, and I am really craving to do something more familiar, I guess. So I might paint something. I might paint the planters themselves, the plants in the planters, and do like a life study situation. But I'm gonna take the pictures, close out the studio for today, and head home. to have the trellis moss pole thing yet. I really like how monsteras look when they're spread out, like wide rather than tall. So I think I'm gonna give it a couple of days, see how it's looking without the moss pole, and if it needs one I will get it one. But for right now I think I'm just gonna let it expand width wise. But yeah, we shall see.